Happy Halloween, everybody! I thought I would celebrate my learning journey using Affinity Photo 2 by making a Halloween display. I'm going to attempt to use as many of the tools I've learned so far without it looking forced. Well, one of them will look forced. I have all the photos that I'm going to use already opened. If I click the tabs, you'll see what the photos are. So you should remember that from back at the beginning. The first image that we're going to start with is the cemetery photo. First of all, we're going to crop the image to make it a little smaller. So remember, you hit the crop tool, you'll get this, and then you'll use the nodes to size the image the way you want it. So I think I'm going to crop this part off. I'm going to crop off part of the sky and a lot of this below. And then I'll press enter, and that will crop my image. Now let's straighten the image a little bit. See, we've got this water line back here. Now I'm going to be the first to admit we really don't have to straighten that, but this was a perfect opportunity to use the straighten button that we used earlier. So to make that show up, remember you have to click the crop tool, and then you'll see that there's this button right here that's straighten. And then you've got this little ruler. See this little ruler? And then you'll go down here and you'll draw a line. Where you're going to straighten it, and it will straighten a little bit. So as you can see, it really didn't matter that much. I mean, if I was really going to do it, I probably wouldn't have straightened that, but the point is to use as many tools as I can for this Halloween thing. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Now remember, we can make any minor adjustments by coming up here, and there's this little curve thing. And so we can make minor adjustments by moving it back and forth. And when we move it back and forth, notice that we get a lot of, we get a grid with more blocks so that we can make finer adjustments than we did before. Alrighty. Now what we're going to do is we're going to remove crosses by using the inpainting tool. And remember, the inpainting tool is down here. It's under the healing brush tool. So you're going to select the inpainting tool, and we're going to remove one of these crosses. I'm going to remove this one down here. This brush is a little too big for me. So I'm going to change it to 50 pixels, and then we'll just paint over it. And it's going to think a little bit. And then we can get rid of, what we need to get rid of. If the background is really close to what you had before, you might find that you're going to have a tough time with the inpainting tool. Let's try and remove this one. See if it works a little bit better. And we finally, we still have a shadow back there. Sometimes this works real well and sometimes it doesn't. But now we finally got rid of our two crosses, and what we're left with here is of course the water line, and then down here that little stump that the cross was sitting on. Okay, so there's your inpainting tool. Now what we're going to do now is to remove part of this background, and we're going to insert another sky. So we need to go and find the selection brush tool, which is what this is. And now we have our selection brush tool. Now we need to change the width again because that's a little bit too narrow for me. And we will just click on it and see how much of this we can select. Now the first time I tried this, this is only the second time I've tried this. So the first time I did it, it selected all the water, but I sort of figured out how to get around that. I see now there is a problem. Okay, so we need to undo that, and maybe it might help. My mouse is really sticky. If I made it a little bit narrower, and then we can do this. Of course, we have our marching ants, and we have this we need to get rid of. And let's make sure that we have everything, well, sort of. Now right here we have this. Well, I'll just go ahead and do that. Okay, let's make this really small. And see if I can get rid of this without having to use the... Oh, good. Okay, so I wanted to get this as close as I could before being forced into using the refine tool. Okay, now this will give us our marching ants. Do a check and make sure you have everything selected you want to check. Then after that, you want to... Okay, so now we are going to delete it. And I just press the delete key. There are a couple of ways that you can delete it, so it's not that big of a deal. Now before we can proceed, we have to get rid of our marching ants. So you go up to select and then deselect, and that will get rid of our marching ants. So now we are to there. Okay, now go over to, or I'm going to go over to the moonlight image. That's really hard to say. Then I am going to edit, and then I'm going to copy, and then go over to my cemetery image, and then I'm going to edit, and then I'm going to paste. Okay, so now over here we have two layers. Now remember, if you want the cemetery to show up, you're going to have the moon to be down here. Okay, so they have to be rearranged. Now, with the moon selected, and make sure it's selected or you're going to be moving the cemetery around and not the moon, we are going to select the Move tool and then move the sky around until we get what we want. Now make sure that you don't go up too far, because if you go up too far, what you're going to see is that, and you really don't want to do that. So arrange it where you want to. I'm going to have the moon right there, and then I'm going to look at it and kind of figure out that this is what I want. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to group these two together. So I'll take this one and this one, and then right click and then select group. So now we just have one layer here, the group layer, and I'm going to name this. It's usually a good idea if you've got multiple layers to name them. I'm really bad about not doing that. But if you have like 10 layers or something like that, you might find that you don't remember what you did, or which one is which without clicking on it, which can be kind of annoying. So there I'm going to name my layer. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go to the bat, and here it is up here. We have a bat, and we are going to edit and copy, and we're going to go back to the Moon Cemetery, and we are going to edit and paste the bat. Okay, so make sure your bat is selected and the Move tool is selected. And we are going to resize our bat like that and move the bat until it is in front of the moon. I tried looking for a bat picture that was smaller, but I wasn't too successful about doing that. But it's okay, we can get the effect that I want anyway. Okay, so now we've got our bat in there, and we've got 2 layers. We've got the moon cemetery grouped, and if you see this little caret right here, remember that when you group things, that if you hit that, you can see what's in your group. Okay, so here's the moon, and I didn't name them, the moon and the cemetery. So then we close it up and we have the grouped layers. Alrighty. Now, the next place we need to go is to go over to the pumpkin, because we're going to take this pumpkin and we're going to cut it out and try to paste it into our cemetery. To do this, I'm going to use the selection brush tool, and oh boy, that's narrow, we don't want that. 100 pixels, that's even, let's try 150 for that one. And I'm going to select this pumpkin. Okay, let's see if we have the pumpkin selected, and then I'm going to make it a little bit smaller so that I can select this piece. Okay, so now we've got our pumpkin selected. Now notice that you've got all these twigs that are sticking out here. So we want to get as many twigs as we can. So this is where we go up and hit the refine option. And we will change our pixels 4. And let's get this out of the way. And we will take these, try to get as many of these little twigs as we can, because see how these twigs are red? That means that they're not going to appear in our picture. This isn't going to be perfect. At least this is what I found when I did this before, is the dry run. But it worked out pretty well, better than I thought it would. And so we're going to select more of our twigs. And all I'm doing is I'm clicking on the mouse, and you can always, take a look at it and see if you like it, and then come back in if you really hate it, and all that sort of thing. So now we're trying to get as many of our twigs as we can. And it looks like for the most part that we did. So let's click apply and see what it looks like. So, we've missed some twigs out here, so we might want to give this one more go. And I'm going to try to get those external twigs and see if I can do that. Okay, make sure I've got this, or it's really not going to do anything if I don't have a... Okay, so we're going to try to do the twigs. And the twigs again. Let me just select all this and see if I can't do that. And then we'll kind of go with what we have. We got most of the twigs on the bottom and these over here. I found that getting these that are being cut off, I couldn't really do. Okay, so let's apply this again. Yeah, this got some of those down there, but it's really not going to get all of them. So we're just going to go with that and we're going to go to invert pixel selection. Okay, so we've gone to invert pixel selection. If you don't do that, then you're going to lose your pumpkin. So now we can delete the background, and now we have a pumpkin. And of course we want to get rid of our marching ants. So we can go up to select and then deselect, Gosh, my mouse is really... Okay, so now we got rid of all that. Now we're going to go up, copy our pumpkin, and then we're going to go back to the cemetery, and we are going to edit, and we're going to paste, and make sure that we've got the move tool, which we do have the move tool selected, but I always click on it because I'm really paranoid about not having the move tool selected. You can tell you got the move tool selected because you've got this bounding box around it. So we are going to make our pumpkin a lot littler than we have here. And then we're going to place our pumpkin. I don't know, I forgot where I put it when I did it the other time. So let's put our pumpkin here and see what it looks like. So now we've got a pumpkin there. Now, we're going to use the curves adjustment layer because we're going to fiddle around with the lighting in this thing. In order to do that, remember, I don't know if you remember how to get to your adjustment layers, but it's this round circle that's got kind of a half moon. And if you mouse over it, you'll see it says adjustments. Of course, if you don't remember where it is, you'll have to mouse over like 1,000 things before you find it. But it's right here. And then when you click on it, it's going to open up this menu, and we're going to go over to curves. And we've got our curves adjustment layer where we're going to click on this, and then we're going to move it around and just to see what it does to our lighting. I found this a little dark. Now I know that, you know, when you're in a cemetery, it's not supposed to be light, but let's just fiddle around with this and see what happens. That's kind of the fun of doing this. Ooh, that looks terrible. So we can fiddle around with this. See what, I knew I wanted things to be a little bit lighter. So let's just do that. And we will, I always like to see what happens when I do this. If you go below this red line, of course it's going to get not a little darker, but your reds are going to change a little bit. So let's get the way we want it. I'm going to move this out of the way so I can see everything. And I think I'm going to keep it that way. It seems a little light, but I think I'm just going to keep it that way. And we're going to go with that. Alrighty. Now remember, you can see, if you don't remember what it looked like before, all you have to do is to go to this curves adjustment layer and then just click it off, and then you can see what it looked like before, and then click it back on and you can see what it looked like before. So, and remember that the one that's on top of your layer stack is the one that's going to take over everything else. So that's probably a good point for you to remember. Now we're going to insert some text. I actually like this now that I did the video on the text. I'm not a big text person. I don't collect a lot of fonts and all that stuff. But this became really interesting when I did it in the last video. So to insert the text, remember you have to select the artistic text tool. And then you're going to click right there and make it kind of as long as you want. And we are going to be typing in Happy Halloween. This is a little bit of the reason why I wanted it to be a little bit lighter, because you get all that dark stuff in there and you can't see anything. Okay, so now we've got to take a look at what kind of font we want, the effects we want, and all that stuff. So we need to click, click, click. So we need to select Happy Halloween, and the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go to the fonts, and I'm going to use the font that I used in the last font video, because I really think it's cool, and it's got that little Halloween-y thing about it. It's the F Rotten font. So I'm going to select that. This is a little bit too big for me. So I'm going to scroll down and let me see. 72 is a little bit too small. I don't really remember what I did in the dry run, so I'll just do this one. And this is 96 point I have right now. Then I am going to go down to the effects. So remember to get text effects, or the layer effects on this text. We have to click on the FX. And then that will open up this layer effects box, because we're going to be changing the color of the text from here. And what we want is, I want an outline like I did in the last video. Remember to select it. And the radius is going to be, I don't know, 3 pixels, I guess, is going to be good enough. I think I did 4, but I'm not really sure. Then we're going to go down to the color, and it'll open up our color wheel. Okay, click on that, but I don't want red for Halloween. I want the orange, kind of the orange thing like that. So we're going to do that. And then in addition to that, we're not done. I know with the text video, that's where it ended, but I really want to try something else. I'm going to go up to this bevel and emboss and click on that and see how that bevels it. I think that's a really cool look. So I think I'm going to go with that. And then we will go with that and try to resize this. Well, here, I'll move it around. And okay, so I don't want to make this too small. Uh-oh, there. Come on. I don't want to be moving around my cemetery. I got it off track. Okay, so we fixed my screw up there. Okay, and this is why you really have to make sure that you're selecting what you want to be selecting. Okay, so I am going to I was trying to avoid the moon in the last one, but I think I'm going to leave it like that. And so now we have our design. I think I used most of the tools that we've been using in the past videos. I tried to keep track of it without it being too obvious that we really didn't need the tool in the first place. So I really had fun doing this, and I encourage you to give this a try yourself. Whether it's Halloween, we've got Thanksgiving coming up, and Christmas and all that. And it really did make me feel like I mean, I know my skills aren't great yet, but it makes me feel like I have enough skills to where I can actually do something useful with this going forward. Oh, and I almost forgot. How do you get this thing out of here? I never really told you how you save this, but what you do is you go up to File. If you like the way it looks, or even if you don't, I mean, you can always come back to it. And you can come back to it even if you saved it. You just import it back in. We'll get into that later on. But you go to File, and you don't go Save As, but you go down to Export, because you're going to export everything out. And so you go to Export, and it is going to be, look at your file type. It's going to be JPEG. Mine is going to go to my desktop. That's where I have it set. And so you have JPEG, you export it out, and I do want it to go in there. This is my Happy Halloween photo. So I will rename this Final Halloween, and then I will press Save. So now you've exported it out. You saved it where you want to save it, and then that's it. Okay, please give this a try. I know I said it before, but it really was fun. And remember to like, subscribe, and click that notification bell. Have a great Halloween, and don't eat too much candy.